is this something that you want to be doing more of, like where you're sort of helping people sort of come to terms and help them break through to kind of bring the best out of them as a DJ or an artist or in that way? And the other question I wanted to ask is, is it like, that we'll stick with that. Is is that something that you want to be doing like more of?
Yeah, I think I do it naturally all the time.
Yeah.
I'm always, to my own detriment sometimes. I always feel like, okay, you know, what is there to improve, or how can I live a more fulfilled life? And I've worked with so many artists over the years, and definitely the area, you know, through labels and through working at the record labels. And for me, the part that makes me feel like most in my purpose is really helping uplifting artists and, you know, not just boosting their confidence, saying like you can do it, but like getting really into like, okay, what are you about? You know, what is your intention in this world? What is it that you want to leave behind? So I think, naturally, I am very intrigued by people's potential, and I believe in people. Yeah. And, you know, if I see talent, it could be so raw. It truly excites me to help people see their own as well, see their own talent and abilities. And sometimes that needs a little push. Very much also born from having to go through that process myself.
That's what I wanted to ask. Like, did this book and similar type programs help you kind of articulate that for your own process and your own development? And now, like, you've seen that it works, and you see that it helped you figure out your purpose and what you want to be doing. So, like, that's kind of the motivation behind this, right? So you've kind of
absolutely
not that it, like, the thing that people like, it's nice to have, not that we don't, like, our traumas and our past that they're meant to happen to us, but it's nice to find some kind of prerequisite from it, you know, like to be able to find a meaning from our lineage, our past, and then bring it
and
to
turn
life.
it into a positive, make it your strength.
So is this something that you do in, like, apart from your own sort of development, but you, with the work that you do with artists? And you mentioned labels. Are you working with any labels now, and you're doing this sort of kind of process with that?
No, I've stopped working with labels. I'm just doing this for myself now. I wanted to be radically independent. It's I just also want to point out that it's not just for artists. I work, in fact, I think more than anything, with people that work in the creative industry who, you know, might feel like they're giving away that a lot of their art and creative juices to, whether it's a brand or another company, and they have like something that they want to, you know, develop themselves. Again, that's where that element of shadow artist is. Sometimes it's easier to do it for somebody else, but you might feel sort of frustrated because you're like, I know I've got something in me too. So it's not just for us, it's also for creators that work in the creative industry, but also just people who are interested in exploring you know, their creative side. And because I truly believe that doing this work, like any kind of healing work, just has a positive effect across the board in your life. So many people who come and do the course are like, actually, it's made my work so much better, just their day job. And for us, it might be like, you know what, it's a space where I can connect with other artists. I think a lot of people, or a lot of artists think, and even people, that it's a very solitary existence. And, you know, you have to protect your art because it's, you know, it's competitive. And actually what we find is that artists do way better when they work together, when they're part of a dynamic, you know, community. So there's that element. And there's just people that want to explore and, you know, have a bit of fun and find play, bring more play and exploration back in their life.
No, I think you've really made a good point there about isolation, because a lot of working, and I mean, even myself, my music career existence, a big part of it is I've worked alone, and you do work on projects with other people, but essentially you're going back to your office and you're back by yourself and you're alone. And so I think even during the pandemic, that was like huge for me. Like it was like on steroids, because we were all in isolation, right? So
it was tough.
and now things are opening up. We're like, dipping our toes back into the world again, and it's like, oh shit, like how do I do that again? So I think, while everyone's posting all these amazing things that are happening in Ibiza and all these things right now, but I think there's a lot of people out there that are struggling and that are struggling.
Me, yes.
Yeah. So your program now, that's how I came across. Like I was just like, oh, I've got to talk to you because this is similar kind of work that I'm doing myself, So that's what I want to do with this podcast is like share these kind of stories and these conversations, because I don't think we have enough of this kind of support in the music industry, and it's becoming normalized now. It's becoming more of a thing, and so can you tell me a little bit about the program? Like, I'd love to learn a bit more about it. I read it on the site. Yeah.
No, totally. So completed 4 rounds of the program in the past year and a half. So done a lot. Yeah. People sign up. I asked them to have the Artist Way book as sort of the thread, and just come with open intentions, and they join for 12 weeks, and I guide them through the 12 weeks of that course process. And each week we meet up. We might do some group exercises that are like tools that help like build the tools to work through creative block. You recap some of the important bits of that week's like reading. And then we do breakout groups where people kind of split into smaller groups and talk about their week. And I think that's really where the value lies. Everybody has their own processes on their own time, and it helps really to hear that from other people. And what I find is that it's my job to like create the most safe space where people feel comfortable and safe to open up. And when that is reached, it really does create a really special bond and intimate place where, everything sort of gets shared, and it really helps people with like opening up to their creative desires. And it also helps people to keep going, because it's one of these books it's one of these things that's kind of hard to stick to. You're like, right, I'm going to start this. And by week 3-4, you're like, yeah. And when you're in a group, constantly somebody will pull you back in and remind you to stay on it. And so there's the accountability element is really, really essential. And I think also what's specific about the group is that the book was written like in the late 80s, published in the early 90s. It's a little bit dated. As much as the core is, I think, timeless and universal, the examples and even the context is dated. So I bring in a lot of like references to, modern day life, which is very different. There was no social media when this book was written. So we actually need a chapter 13 to include, because that could be some
That's a whole kind of other can of worms.
Yeah, exactly. But we talk a lot about it, and I mentioned, so like, I can reference all that. So people come, and it's a 12-week process. And then beyond it, we stay in touch, and alongside we sometimes do like meetups. People form their own little friend groups and start doing things, and people start working together. So it becomes a sort of really special community.
I love it.
Space.
It's great.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love that whole, and I think people take it for granted how much like being in community, that aside from accountability, there's this especially when you're working on stuff like on yourself, and those parts of you come up that want you to like to resist and bring you back to what's comfortable. So when you're in that kind of cohort kind of environment, there's that regulation going on. It helps you move forward, you know. And I find, and I've seen that like even in my own process. And I think and for me now, I love to create a space where I'm able to do this. And even these podcasts, like I find being therapeutic, you know, I'm talking to people all the time, exchanging. And when I get off, I'm buzzing, you know, like I feel really like shit's happening, you know?
Yeah. No, talking is great. It's how we feel after the sessions. You're just like, whoa. Yeah, you don't feel less, you feel less alone, you feel inspired, you feel connected. And community gets thrown around a lot, and but it is really important, and it is quite hard to create it in this day and age, because I think there's a lot of things that make us feel like it's community, or that is told, you know, as Facebook is called a community, the Facebook community is like, and they are, but are they really tapping into the kind of connections that we need, you know, the sort of the more in-depth connections? And I think that's something that's missing, or that people are craving and desiring, and just also having the consistency of seeing people on a weekly basis and investing in yourself to explore. And I think that's maybe goes back to like my personal forever, you know, interest. Is like, I feel like it's just the human psyche, and like our being is just an endless like well to explore. And yeah, I've always been fascinated by that and interested in that like element of psychology. So yeah,
I think people find, because you know, like the words like connection and you know, like and it's all woo-woo, you know, and they get thrown off by it. But like if we get neuroscience on this, like there's data that supports this, like that there is science behind this as well. People, I think people are becoming more open to it, but like they're you know, human beings need connection. Like it's just they need connection.
Yes.
Well, I can talk for hours with this stuff with you. I know,
me too. No, but you know, totally. And I think connection. And I think, you know, on the one hand, I'm like, oh, I'm doing this course and it's so different from like the DJing, but for me, it's also so connected, because it's just another way of bringing people together and finding a space where we can commune and be and explore being, living in this mad world. Really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.